Hey guys, for this video I thought I was going to do something a little bit different and test out several different products that you can use to give your tumblers a matte finish instead of the traditional glossy finish. So I pre-made a couple molds that I made black, and I'm using this super fine steel wool here. And the first product we're going to try is Final Sand, which is one of the most popular options. So as we go through, I'm going to put some of the product on the item, and as you can see, part of it is taped off. So I'm going to sand each item with each product, and in the end, we're going to do a reveal and figure out which one is the most efficient at mattifying our items. As you can see when I'm wiping this off here, there are some bubbles in the epoxy, so it does give you an odd sort of texture visually that you see because of the epoxy that I was using at the time that I no longer use. So when looking at these matte finishes, try to disregard any bubbles that you may see. It's not the product that I'm using, it's the epoxy itself. So here you've seen me wipe down the item. It works best if it's a little bit wet. And then this one is Barkeeper's Friend. So I'm going to go ahead and sand this one for a little bit with the steel wool and see how this comes out. So this one is a soft scrub. For this one, I was looking for items that are less known that could give you a matte finish. So I picked this one up at Walmart. So we're going to sand this down and see how this works. The next item I picked up is liquid sandpaper by Clean Strip. I grabbed this from Lowe's. Um, I do believe other companies make something similar, and you can probably get them Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot. But we're going to try this one and see how this works. So now we're going to move on to more traditional options. This is 400 grit sandpaper. So I'm going to put a little bit of water on this mold and wet sand it and see what the results look like. One thing I did notice with sanding is that the results were more inconsistent, especially around the edges. So for me personally, I don't think this is a good option for me. Um, if you're capable of being more consistent than me, which probably won't take much, this might be a good option for you. Here, I took a sanding disc that we use with our orbital sander, and we're going to try this one, which is a 320 grit sandpaper. So we're going to sand with this one for a bit and see how this comes out. As you'll see here in just a moment, this one is also inconsistent around the edges, and this could very well be a me thing. If it was more thorough, it probably wouldn't be this bad, but considering how easy it is to get a better, more consistent finish with the liquids, I'm going to stick with those. So this is the result of the final sand. I'm going to go ahead and remove the tape here so we can see the before and after. Keep in mind on this one, we have issues with the bubbles, major issues with the bubbles, and that's due to the epoxy itself. I was using the lightning cure, which I no longer use, but the finish itself, it looks pretty good. So this is the Barkeeper's Friend. Go ahead and remove the tape here and see these results. This is another one where the bubbles are really noticeable, but the finish here was a lot more smoother and consistent than especially the sanded ones, the manually sanded ones. There are some spots where I didn't give as much attention to them, and other spots I gave them more attention. So I think if I were to be more diligent, it would have a better result. Here we have the soft scrub, which isn't really known as a mattifying product, but I tried this one anyway. And with this mold, I didn't realize until I demolded it, the mold was actually old, and it's not really a glossy finish, so it is kind of hard to get a true before and after on this product. So I brought in a different product that does have a glossy finish to kind of give better comparison of how well this product will mattify resin. And here we have the liquid sandpaper. So let's remove the tape on this and see how this one did. This one looks very, very smooth, but I will note that on this one, because of the shape of this mold, all my movements were vertical. They were all up and down. So it did give a very smooth finish to this one. This is the 400 grit sandpaper. Let's see how this one did. So as we can see, I was inconsistent in my sanding here, but it did give a very matte finish. I do feel like it's a little bit more rough than I would want. I should probably use a more higher grit sandpaper for this. It would probably give a more pleasant final result. This is the 320 grit sandpaper. This one is rougher than the 400 grit. The lower you go, the more rough it is. So let's see how this one came out. So this one definitely has inconsistencies from my part. It does look to be more matte in comparison, but I think it's a little bit more rough than I would personally prefer it to be. And my inconsistencies did not help when it comes to it being uniform. So here we're going to do a little comparison. We're going to compare the 420 or the 400 to the 320. Look at the results here. Personally, I prefer the 400, so we're going to eliminate the 320 and move on and compare to other products and see which one came out superior. This is the final sand of the Barkeeper's Friend. Keep in mind the bubbles here do play a part in the finish. It messes with the visuals, but ultimately I feel like Barkeeper's Friend just looks really, really smooth. And this is probably one that I should retest without bubbles, because I do think it's playing a factor, even though I'm telling it not to. So I'm going to move Barkeeper's Friend on to compare to other products. So this is the liquid sand. We're going to compare this one to the soft scrub. The liquid sand looks very, very nice, and the soft scrub I think would have a better chance if that mold was not so mattifying looking, because it's so old. It is not a bad finish at all, but I really did enjoy working with the liquid sandpaper, so I am going to move that over to the next round. So here we have the 400 grit sandpaper, we have Barkeeper's Friend, and then we have our liquid sandpaper. So comparing the 400 grit and the Barkeeper's Friend, I think the clear winner in this case is Barkeeper's Friend. So I'm going to keep that one and compare it to liquid sand and see how these two compare together. This one, at least for me anyway, it's a very, very close tie. I mean, we do have the bubbles in the mold that do play a part visually. And then on the liquid sandpaper side, I was strictly going up and down. I wasn't going in circles. But ultimately, these two are pretty neck and neck in my opinion. I think they're both very nice options for getting a mattifying product. So let me know what you guys think in the comments and which one was your favorite.